many ways and let individuals do what they want, love whom they want, when they want, and how they want. But as a nation, we cannot pass laws to say a wrong is a right. And if we continue to do that, we can only expect to see our strength and our prosperity dissipate in the coming years.
Thank you. The next response will come from Mr. Schiffer.
I'm against the changing of policy. I gaze in the military. I believe it will severely disrupt our mission in the military, and I believe personally, as a person who served in the U.S. Marine Corps from 1977 to 1981, that the mission of the United States military is to defend America, period. No other questions asked. The military should not be allowed to be used as a social experiment that the liberals like to try to foist on us domestically. This is going way too far beyond the scope of the mission of the U.S. military. So I'm opposed to homosexuality being permitted openly in the U.S. military.
Thank you. With the final 1-minute reply from Mr. Renacci.
I believe that Congress and the President should heed the advice of our military leaders. The military leaders are the ones who have said that the don't ask, don't tell policy is what they want. And when we have military leaders in our service, we should listen to them. So I am a firm believer in listening to them, and I believe that that policy should remain, and we should continue. I have the greatest respect for the military, and I value their service, and I actually value the service of our commanders, and I respect their decision and their opinions. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. You're listening to the 2010 16th Congressional District Republican Party Primary Candidate Forum, sponsored by the Ohio Christian Alliance on News Talk 1480 WHBC. Now for our fourth question. The first response will come from Mr. Renacci. President Obama, along with Speaker Pelosi, have called for the repeal of the Federal Defense of Marriage Act, also known as DOMA. That was passed by Congress and signed into law by President Bill Clinton. Do you believe that the federal DOMA should be repealed? Why or why not?
Well, that's an easy one, because I believe that the definition of marriage is between a man and a woman. And although President Obama has said he was going to repeal it, he hasn't yet. My fear is that there are 4 congressmen out there in 2009 who started the process to try and repeal that, and that's a truly an issue. You know, we need to make sure that the sanctity of marriage is maintained. I've been married for 27 years. I have 4 children. The last thing we need, with all the divorces going on in this country, is another action that would cause problems with this. The definition again of marriage is between a man and a woman. We need to maintain that. We need to keep the sanctity of that, and we need to continue with that. So I would not be in favor of doing that.
Thank you. But now for our first 1-minute follow-up from Mr. Schiffer.
I'm a conservative, and just like being pro-life, against the government involved in everything in our life. Look, the Obama administration seems to not get it at all. They're totally every day, every minute of every day, engaged in a policy of disrupting the societal structure of our nation. And we need to wake up and start fighting aggressively against this. I am obviously for defending the sanctity of marriage, and I'm one who is very frustrated at seeing our government engaged in doing things, disrupting life, involved in issues that they have no business being involved in. I defend marriage, I defend the sanctity of marriage, and I think it's high time that all of us put our foot down, drew the line, and said no more liberal social experimenting domestically or in the military. Enough. I've had it. That's why I'm running for Congress. I'm fed up with it.
Thank you. Next respondent, Matt Miller. Do you support the repeal of the do you support the repeal of DOMA, the Defense of Marriage Act, and why or why not?
Well, first of all, let me just say, and they've all stated it very well, marriage is between a man and a woman. It's incredible that we've come to the point in America's history where we have to have it legalized so that we make sure it's a man and a woman, right? This morning I was in a meeting and someone brought up the common saying, it takes a village to raise a child, it takes a community to raise a child. It actually takes a parent, and two is even better. And one of the things that we can do to solve an awful lot of our our problems is by encouraging strong marriages and instead avoiding those policies and those laws that systematically work to chisel away at what God has created. It would be in our best interest if we would heed what we already know in our heart is the right direction to go on so many of these issues.
Thank you very much. And the final response on the potential repeal of DOMA comes from Mr. Smith.
Marriage is a matter of either companionship or of raising a child. I won't comment on companionship because I know some people who are working together because they're both too sick to operate alone. But when it comes to a child, that child needs two things: someone to be with him and give him direction for the time he's young, and somebody to provide the income that's necessary for him to have something to eat. You cannot do a full-time job of both of them, which requires a full-time job of both of those parts. You cannot do it if you're trying to do both at the same time. 70% of the people born in Stark County at this time are a single package. We must increase our understanding of marriage and support it in every way possible.
Well, thank you very much. Now for our fifth question. Many people in Stark County have lost their jobs in recent years. The federal unemployment rate currently stands at 10.8%. But here in Stark County, the unemployment rate is 13.5%. Do you think the federal government can play a part in stimulating economic growth and development and job creation? And as a member of Congress, what would you do? The first response for 2 minutes comes from Mr. Schiffer.
Okay. I believe that the federal government cannot create jobs, except for government jobs, as witnessed the past year and 2 months from the Obama administration. But what the federal government can do is destroy jobs, is create job loss. And that is exactly what's happened in the past year and 2 months under the Obama administration. Some of the things that have taken place, let me give you some statistics that I've read recently from the Heritage Foundation and a couple other conservative think tanks in Washington, D.C. Did you know that the stimulus package, the $759 billion plus that was supposed to be sent out there this year and next year to create jobs, only $157 million of that, or billion of that, has been passed through any hands yet? I don't know what happened to the other 500, 600 billion. Make a long story short, did you know that 75% of that money has only gone into congressional districts where there's a liberal Democrat that runs that district? Only about 20% or less has gone into Republican, or districts held by Republican congressmen. What's going on here? This is cronyism. The stimulus package is not about creating jobs. It's about stimulating the Democratic Party and increasing the power of groups like Acorn and other George Soros-run organizations. If the full knowledge of this was made public, there'd be more than a Tea Party out there. I'll tell you that much.
Thank you very much. The next response from Mr. Smith. I'll repeat the question. The question is, do you believe that the federal government can play a part in stimulating economic growth? And if elected as to a member of Congress, what would you do in this respect?
The first problem that we have is that the Chinese can produce equipment at such a low price that American businesses cannot compete. Now, our government is not supposed to be ruling the people, but to enable the people to rule themselves. And that means that there has to be a way in which there's some equivalency of taxes and tariffs for foreign and domestic production, so that we can choose to buy on the basis of quality, ability, appearance, etc., and not have to go to China because it's so cheap that we cannot match that price here.